today is a very important and I think a very interesting opportunity. We have this opportunity today to discuss how digital educational programs should be launched and implemented. And today we will try to look at this process from the time of designing a program to the time of tracking and analyzing our digital footprint. Interestingly, we are all actors and implementers of how the contemporary educational process is supposed to look like today. As you can see, some of our speakers are right here in the classroom with us, and they can interact face-to-face, and the other part of the audience is behind the screen. And it's wonderful to be able to see this audience because you can have this effect of presence, and some speakers are today with us who will share their experience, and they are joining us online, but I hope this is not going to be an obstacle to discussing how this process is currently being implemented and should be implemented. Yes, it's a true hybrid format. Dear colleagues, I'd like to emphasize that this roundtable was prepared, and we are going to discuss issues today with the implementation of the national program, human resources for the digital economy within the digital economy of the Russian Federation national program. And to set the tone of our today's discussion, I wanted to say that we are going to go through the key stages, starting from identifying the agenda and the strategy and finishing with the lessons we can learn, and how we can analyze our digital footprint, and how we can subsequently improve our educational process in the digital medium. So first, we are going to look at identifying and managing the agenda of digitizing our educational process. We are starting from the top level, and this is the level of the Ministry of Finance, and how this area is handling digitization, and how we can subsequently roll out this experience to universities and other parts of the economy, how digitization is built into this activity and how we can improve this activity. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Alexei Yakovlev, Deputy Director of Financial Policy Department at the Ministry of Finance of the Russian Federation. Alexei Vyacheslavovic, the floor is yours. Hello, colleagues. I'm happy to see you all today. It is indeed a very important topic that we are discussing now. As you said quite correctly, digitization is one of the key segments of our life today, and it particularly impacts the new level of life quality, and indeed the processes that are that have been happening over the past 1.5 to 2 years. Speaking about not only this component, but also about daily life aspects. And this is certainly the activity. Colleagues, who has the microphone on? Please mute it. Thank you. So yes, definitely the processes that are objectively happening nowadays require skills of our teachers, professors, and the knowledge that we are sharing with the students, with the learners who are going to implement all those initiatives in the future, all the processes that we are currently launching. I'd like to make a short presentation about the process, show you how we are building it under the national, within the national project called Human Resources for the Digital Economy. We have a working group dedicated to that, and I'd like to share some results we have achieved. Please share my slides. Alexei, please unmute your mic. Yes, sorry. As I said, the Ministry of Finance, together with Innopolis University, is implementing the program on training human resources for the finance market. And the core of these skills are contemporary finance competence. We are preparing human resources for the digital economy, and this alone emphasizes how the government believes these processes are important, and this task will definitely be completed, and it will be the focus of the Ministry of Finance and the government as a whole. So we are aiming at creating, assessing, and scaling the model of providing top priority industries with highly qualified human resources that will be sought after by the digital economy. And of course, this project is aimed at developing flexible skills, because the skills and competence we are developing have to be suitable in the long term. We want to avoid a situation when we are developing some things that by the end of the training will already be out of date and non-applicable in practice. So in this digital environment, it is important to stay tuned and stay focused. This is extremely important here. Next slide, please. Speaking about the format, how we are implementing our project. The key group here is the industry-specific working group called Financial Services, and there are numerous entities involved in this group. So you can see that here we have representatives of the executive authorities, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, and Ministry of Digital Development. Also, we have leading finance universities. Without them, this work would be meaningless. There are representatives of the industry that are always ready to share the most relevant trends and practices existent in the market nowadays. There is methodology association, finance market representatives, and of course, IT companies. Next slide, please. Our working group, taking into account the objectives you've read on the first slide, is working on three key dimensions. Firstly, it's training professors and guideline developers on key issues of the finance market with the digital component. Secondly, it's updating vocational educational programs with the finance component for digital jobs. In 2020, this is the global economy and the international business program for the bachelors. And the third dimension is upgrading professional standards, taking into account real needs of companies and the human resources that these companies need, so that they could hire our graduates. So the working group within this federal project will continue working until 2024. Next slide, please. We will dwell in more detail on each of the dimensions I've mentioned. So updating the key professional educational programs in 2020. This is implemented by the Ural Federal University. It is named after Boris Yeltsin, the first president of Russia. Now, this federal university has developed a draft educational program with the digital component for financial professions on this program I've just mentioned, Global Economy and International Business for Bachelors. And I think my colleagues from the university will talk about this program in more detail later on, so I will not dwell on that.
Выпускника и в целом.
Generally,
задачи и прежде всего в части цифровой составляющей.
Primarily in terms of the digital component. So this aspect of how this program is applicable and how it can be used in the future, this will also be discussed in detail today. As of today, we are completing the procedure of approbation, of testing, and this will also be discussed today. Next slide, please. updating professional standards. So in terms of professional standards, we are now the work is now performed by the All Russian R&D Labor Institute, and this institute is updating standards, in-house control specialist and payment systems specialist. This is supposed to be completed by November 30 this year.
Коллеги, можно следующий слайд, пожалуйста?
Colleagues, next slide, please. Yes, Alexei, your sound goes on and off, but okay, here is your next slide. Yes, I'm sorry about that. And in terms of training our professors and guideline developers regarding this finance component, so these are the most relevant subjects and trends of digitizing the finance sector, financial services field that have a high applied interest. So we believe that this breakdown is the most relevant and applicable, and we are ready to provide any necessary assistance. Both the Ministry of Finance is ready to help, and we are ready to involve actual market participants to ensure a live and useful discussion of these issues. And a few words about the results. Next slide, please. So as of today, we have already trained more than 1,500 people across from all regions, and about 12,500 people have been trained within the project in general. So the numbers speak for themselves. The results are pretty good, but we should remember that we are at the very beginning of this journey, and I think that subsequent results will be even more impressive. I'm sure that our today's discussion will be extremely useful, and we are very interested in receiving your feedback in order to introduce certain adjustments in our work. And we would also like to hear where we are all going to go in the future. So best of luck and have a fruitful discussion. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Alexei. Although you have emphasized that we are at the very beginning of this journey, the results are indeed quite impressive even now. And we really hope that our today's discussion will help us find the ways of improving and optimizing this process further. Yes, the Ministry of Finance is the customer in this case, and this goal is indeed very important. Training and nurturing highly qualified human resources that will be able to work in the digital economy under changing circumstances. But a large-scale project would certainly be impossible without a big administrator that could include numerous universities in this project and select the worthiest of them that could really make a great contribution towards training high-quality human resources for the digital economy. And it is my pleasure now to give the floor to our guest, whom, in spite of all odds and circumstances, was able to come here and participate in this event face-to-face. I give the floor to Mr. Iskander Bariev, Vice Rector and Head of Project and R&D Activities Administration at Innopolis University. The floor is yours. Good afternoon, colleagues. Can you hear me fine? And please show my slides now. Thank you very much, Alexei, for talking about the finance industry and what we are doing within this working group. And the Ministry of Finance is focusing a lot on that activity, along with other finance sector representatives that are that care about the higher education and what's happening here. We are grateful to such partners, and you are the reason why this project is being implemented. Now we would like to move on. So we've talked about the finance industry, and we explained a little bit about the project as a whole, what we are doing and what are our objectives. And when we were conceiving this project, the chair of our supervisory board, Mr. Dmitry Chernyshenko, was saying that a huge challenge nowadays is the fact that the higher education system needs to relaunch this story with the digital, because there is a certain trend, and launching education on digital technologies is slow, and teachers are not qualified. So they teach digital technologies as best they can. And that's what our project was supposed to correct, to solve this problem. It helped us that we are young and we might not understand all the problems of the higher education. That's why we were bold enough to launch this project. But summarizing the results of 2021, I can say that indeed, I just want to say that we have numerous colleges that care about it, and numerous colleges came to our assistance, and only that's why we were able to achieve success in 2021. And of course, this Ministry of Finance that helps us set our priorities, that was a huge help. So these are the project's KPI that we are supposed to achieve by 2024. And we have two big trends. The first is developing educational programs and rolling them out. And secondly, it's improving the skill level of teachers and professors that are supposed to teach students at the higher education level. So we have 80,000 teachers. So the first track of teachers was in top priority economy sectors, and the second track was IT teachers. Of course, the year 2021 started with our wish to create a club of fellow thinkers who want to participate in this project and want to improve the skills of their teachers. And by the end of 2021, we have these numbers. We have created the so-called club. We called it consortium, and colleges could enter this consortium free of charge, but they had to assume certain obligations. As of today, we have 342 higher education institutions and 158 colleges that are at the vocational education level. They entered our consortium and they committed to update and fine-tune their educational programs, and we are working with them. And we are pleased to say that this project currently covers 79 regions, and I believe that by December 31, all subjects of the Russian Federation will join our ecosystem. Speaking about the work we are doing, it was a very right decision to divide into 11 working groups according to top priority industries. As IT people, we understand what's happening in IT globally, going on in the world in terms of IT. But there are specific features in Russia, and Russia has its own priorities. So we decided that we had to establish a working group for each top priority industry. And these working groups should be led by federal executive authorities that would tell us what's happening in their industry and what skills they are lacking. So initially, of course, it was hard to launch this, but now all working groups are operational, and there is a federal executive authority that assumed the responsibility of holding meetings and disputes and so on. And that's how our project is pursuing its goals. So that's how the work is actually done. And an important thing is this project is impossible without the opinions of companies that need these human resources. We currently have 398 companies divided by these top priority industries. Companies give us feedback, share their proposals, share their experts with us, so that we could hold the necessary number of lectures on the trends, on cutting-edge technologies and cutting-edge solutions they're using, so that students who receive this knowledge would be better prepared to the tasks faced by the industries. And this is the key slide about our project in general. And I think our foreign colleagues could think it a bit strange or weird, but that's the specific features of higher education in Russia. So speaking about the key levels of this training center, we have to start from the top. We currently have federal state standards of education that are developed by the Ministry of Education and Science of Russia, and we need to introduce a certain number of changes in these state standards if we want to teach digital technologies. The next level is professional standards developed by the Ministry of Education and Science of Russia, by employers and a few other entities. So we need to understand what professional skills need to be taken into account during our educational process. Then we move down to educational institutions, higher education institutions, and vocational education institutions. And here we develop educational programs, curricula, the content, the tests, and other aspects of this process. Then we have the process of professional development for teachers. And the next level will be checking the quality of training. So this triangle, this pyramid, is supposed to yield the results we want to achieve by the end of project implementation in 2024. And the key challenge for us was, well, we have launched the project, but the key challenge is how to organize the process of continuous professional development for teachers and continuously upgrading educational programs and controlling education quality. How can we organize this process to be cheap, efficient, and transparent as much as possible? By the end of 2024, we need to achieve that. And that's probably the key insight of this project, that we are not just doing something one-off. It's going to be an endless journey, and the colleges that will not join our ecosystem will learn later about these new developments. I will now list the key activities so that you understand the key numbers from 2021 and understand how this is all happening, what are the key points of our project in terms of events. So firstly, it's teaching teachers and professors. So you can see a breakdown of teachers whom we trained in 2021, broken down by areas. So that's 12,588. And we are going to have almost 17,000 teachers who will complete their training by the end of this year, and they will start using this knowledge at their colleges. So who is teaching what? We realize that our Innopolis University has some high-level foreign professors and Russian professors too, so we can share knowledge, but that's not enough. We involve top Russian colleges for each industry. We involve partners from the industry. We involve experts, specifically experts from Russian supervision of education so that they could share new trends of developing and licensing new educational programs. We do not want to focus on our university alone. We want to create a club of fellow thinkers who will help us give better knowledge to our professors. In this slide, you can see the key modules. So the first part of this training consists of 3 modules. That's 44 hours. First, it's introduction into digitization, then digital technologies and their application in industries, and module 3 is digital technologies in teaching. And during the final assessment, teachers defend their educational programs or vocational programs that they will later use at their colleges. And the last module, it says 2020-2024, but actually it's going to continue endlessly. This is further support of teachers and professors, because we want to have networking. We want these teachers to keep working with us. So in this slide, you can see how these are the first insights of what's going to happen with teaching in the future. We have already established an alumni club, and now these alumni are interacting with teachers in their area. They share experience and best practices. And we have now created an information channel. It's called InnoHR, and we share news and interesting facts on this channel. Its audience is growing, and we hope it's going to be the key channel where we are going to share the news about this educational center. Then academic mobility project and exchanges with other leading universities. So we want students and teachers to share, to visit each other, share best practices, which is good for teachers and for colleges as well, because that's how they can enrich their content and improve education quality. This is good for everyone, and we want to organize this process within our educational center. And of course, we want to collect and analyze feedback. It's the most important thing for us. We get a lot of good and even more bad feedback about what we are doing wrong, which is very valuable for us, because this project is not about how good we are, it's about what we need to correct, what's not working and what should be changed, that we could share best knowledge, global level knowledge in the industries we are working with. Speaking about the second task of updating educational programs, in this slide, you can see the performance of 2021. We are updating 30 programs. By the way, the Ural Federal University is working on several of these dimensions. It's not only developing educational programs, we also have the task of developing content and additional educational courses that we want to roll out in the industry. So in terms of percentage, if we look at the numbers here, that's how they are growing. This trend will continue. Only speaking about financial services, I suppose we're going to have more educational programs on financial services, because we are approached by banks representatives and representatives of big finance and economic enterprises. So we will maybe increase the number of educational programs and content for financial services. Rolling out updated educational programs, that's how it's going to happen. We are now developing this, and by the end of the year, the leading colleges that are working with us will have to test these programs within their colleges, and then we are going to roll it out to all colleges in our consortium through the platform. We are now developing a unified educational platform, and we will organize professional development for teachers on this platform, and then roll out educational programs from this platform. As for professional standards, I will probably not dwell on that. We are continuing to work on that, and we are updating professional standards. You can see a breakdown by industries, which professional standards we are updating. Of course, we face lots of problems in the processing industry. It's now our top priority in terms of updating standards. So we have other sectors where we are going to update standards, and we are also changing our approach. We are going to enhance our activity in the industry to accelerate this process, because we realize that we cannot take so long updating standards in the future. I'm through with the key points. I just wanted to thank you for this venue. And on December 4, we are going to have Digital Innopolis Days, where we are going to summarize the results across all working groups. We will be joined by our colleagues from the Ural Federal University. We are going to have online and offline events, and we are going to discuss the results and plan for the next years there. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Iskander, for your speech. It's great that at the very beginning of this discussion, we heard about this club of fellow thinkers. We all indeed share this idea, and it's great that you are not only saying about you're not only talking about producing best practices, but you're also talking about learning lessons. You have definitely identified the key strategic areas, and these include not only creating and designing your programs, but also training and retraining and professionally developing human resources. But today we are mostly going to focus on designing educational programs, but we can hope that in the future we will be able to talk about retraining human resources in the future, which would also be impossible without application of digital technologies. Of course, thank you. Thank you very much. And now, dear colleagues, I'd like to move on to the second stage of producing and implementing digital educational programs. And phase 2 is definitely designing and producing a digital educational program. Another interesting thing Iskander said, and I noted that, he said that Russia and Russian experience is somewhat different from that of other countries. But now I'd like to give the floor to our colleague, Professor Keith Pond, Director of EFMD online course certification system. We certainly realize that Russia has its own path, but we also understand that it's important to see best practices, take them into account, and if possible, integrate best practices into our experience. Professor Pond, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to address this forum. I will share my screen and get into my presentation. So, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here and share with you some of the lessons that we've learned through 6 years of certification.
Just a second, we'll switch on the translation for the Russian
audience. Thank you.
Никому не слышно, не только нам. Дело в том, что это вот там происходит.
They cannot hear you for some reason. I can. online people who joined online can hear you, and people on the offline venue cannot for some reason.
Профессор Понт, сейчас мы готовы вас.
Professor Pond, we are ready now.
Thank you. I will begin again with a trusty translator and interpreter to aid my presentation.
Микрофон включен. Профессор Понт, мы вас не слышим.
Professor Pond, we cannot hear you. Dmitry, we need your help. Professor Pond cannot make his speech.
У вас выключен звук.
Профессор Понт, попробуйте сказать
Professor
что-нибудь.
Pond, please try saying something now.
Yes, just this is a test of my microphone. I hope you can all hear me.
Это вот то, что мы здесь видим, это там.
Да, мы прекрасно
У
слышим,
меня я
на самом
только
деле.
презентацию.
We can actually hear everyone who is on Zoom can hear Professor Pond perfectly.
You can go on, I think.
Jana said you could go on.
Okay, well, I'll recap and wish everyone a very good day. What I want to do is to share with you all some of the lessons we have learned in the last 6 years. In this 6 years, we have been certifying online management courses in business schools, in universities, state authorities, and corporate trainers, wherever we find good practice. We call ourselves EOCS, the EFMD Online Course Certification System, and I'm its director, Keith Pond. And already in Russia, we have 3 institutions that have been awarded the EOCS certificate, and they've been named to have been named today in presentation: Sper University, University of the Bank of Russia, and our friends at Lomonosov Moscow State University Economics Department. So we are known in Russia. We have a global benchmark and have developed a global benchmark for good quality online courses. We originally designed this system in 2014, when this was the year of the MOOC, but we found it applicable to discrete courses within programs in business schools and universities. The COVID pandemic has accelerated acceptance of digital education, and it's fast becoming a mainstream delivery mechanism for many schools. The EOCS process, which is outlined on my slide, is completely online, and feedback from our certificate holders shows that the biggest benefits so far are the opportunities to develop the team and develop faculty in digital skills. Our reviews of digital courses look at 4 areas, but it's just one of these I want to talk about today. We look at the design of courses, the delivery of courses, we speak with students and delegates, we look at the continuing quality assurance processes, but we start with our first chapter, the institution, the institutional context of whoever is delivering the digital course. Our review panels wish to establish that digital education is not only sustainable within the institution, but a key part of its strategy. For open universities and distance learning organizations, the culture of online is well known. But how far has the culture changed in traditional universities? If strategy is in the right direction and towards digital education, then resources often follow. And these resources are not just financial, but time, and as other speakers have said, training and reskilling of the trainers and the academics in universities. Of course, we're in a period where technology changes constantly. And again, we look for our digital universities to have not just the up-to-date technology, but to use relevant technology in the best way for their markets. And this is a point I'm going to enlarge on in my next slide, the skills of the trainers, the teachers, the lecturers, the professors in our higher education system. And this is the part that we know a lot about within EFMD. This is trying to represent, this diagram tries to represent a picture of the existing traditional methods of teaching within a university, the lecture. It sees the academic as the communication device, the lecture hall as the delivery platform, and the institution and the academic together as the design team. And this is traditional. We've known about this for hundreds of years. Some universities are still practicing in this way. But what we've seen with successful digital universities and digital business schools is that those roles are split. We need to see the academic as what they do best, research, the knowledge base, the updating of knowledge. And then we see new roles coming into digital design, learning designers, those individuals that understand the needs of the teachers and the needs of the students, but also how the particular delivery system, the technology, can deliver that benefit. And one other thing we've noticed with the internet is that all of those factors, all of those roles can actually be done by people outside of an institution. These can be bought in on a contract basis. And one of our online business schools in Spain actually only retains the learning design as its own skill set. It buys in academics when needed, and it uses a delivery system from a global provider. And yet the quality of their offering is very good. It's not all about technology. And what we've found is that the business model of business schools needs to take into consideration changing demand in our marketplace, the need for flexibility and choice. And this is a well-researched area. Our younger generation have been brought up on YouTube and Netflix, where they can binge watch box sets. They sometimes want their education in the same way. They want it all together rather than once a week in a timetabled setting. Digital gives that option. And it can give flexibility in where that education, where that instruction is received, and how much it costs. Our young people, in fact, everyone, wants to be treated as an individual. And so the use of AI, artificial intelligence, is becoming more and more commonplace because it can personalize the learning journey. It can see where each individual student is on the digital platform and prompt them, nudge them, and hopefully get them towards the end of the course. So technology can come to the rescue, making the course administrator really a data engineer, looking for interaction, looking for opportunities to nudge that behavior so that students complete courses. So they are my three main points that we bring from 6 years of certification. And my conclusion is that business schools have a huge management challenge if they're to embrace good quality digital education and maintain the reputation and brand that they already enjoy. So this must be done at the highest level of quality to do that. The management challenge comes not only in financial terms, but in changing the workforce and managing a mixture of internal and external providers. But the rewards are great. Institutions can provide a global stage, can attract good quality international students, can offer flexible and timely executive education in ways that they couldn't without digitalization. I'm happy later on to take any questions there may be.
Can you hear me?
Sure, Taras.
And how many courses since the start of certification have been certified through the EOCCS?
At present, we have just under 100 courses, and that spans something like 30 institutions across the world. In fact, we have...
Спасибо большое за столь интересный доклад.
Thank you very much, Professor Pond, for this interesting speech. Indeed, the problem that you were talking about throughout your presentation, it is indeed a very relevant problem for all universities and all participants and actors of this digital area. It's not just digitizing your educational content. It's the problem is making it at a top quality level and creating a high quality result, because that's what we started with today. We need to train highly qualified human resources for the digital economy, and definitely without a high quality educational product, that would be impossible. Thank you very much, Professor Pond, for your perspective and for sharing your 6-year experience, which is indeed very relevant and which can then be rolled out to other educational areas. So from the problem of designing and from the stage of designing an educational product, of course, this phase, the design phase, is a very important driver, but no less phase of creating an educational program, we believe, is launching and promoting an educational program, because these two phases often go hand in hand. We are designing an educational program, and at the same time we are thinking about how we can launch and promote it to the market of educational services. So now I would like to give the floor to Daria Grits, who is Director for Education Digitization at Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology. Daria, the floor is yours. We are very interested in learning about your experience of promoting and launching educational programs online. Hello, colleagues. I will share my slides now. And now I just like to make a very short introduction. Can't you hear me? We can hear you. We can hear you. Okay, great. I hope Nina can hear me as well. I think that our today's conference as a whole and each of its sessions specifically is looking at a very extensive subject, and the particular things we want to discuss depend on the audience. I think I am mostly addressing university staff now, university staff who want to create new programs and promote them, creating this portfolio of financially and otherwise successful programs. So from this perspective, from this viewpoint, I'm going to make my short speech. Promoting and launching. I am primarily concerned with promotion. We are together with Taras Pustovoy on this session, and when we met before today's conference, we have discussed that I'm more interested in promotion, while Taras, I hope, will speak about launching. So we split the functions in this case. And in terms of promotion, I'm interested in where it begins and where it ends, because even if we look at how today's discussion is organized, it's divided into 5 phases. So first we develop an agenda. We are trying to understand what kind of programs we want to launch and what should be the foundation of our agenda, the things we already have, or the things the market needs, or the things the government needs, or just what we like to do, what we want to do, even if there is no expertise and no demand. We just want to create an educational program based on our interests. Then we are designing, promoting and launching, implementing, monitoring, and maybe improving. But even here, promotion and launch are in the middle. But my key and only statement today is that promotion, I believe, actually drives the agenda, the program design, and of course, it also affects implementation. Launch affects implementation. The first pilot launch, the first time when we are implementing a new program, it's also a part of promotion. I think only the second or even later, maybe the 5th iteration can be called a reproducible program. Before that, it's still launch. We are still experimenting. And of course, when we get some feedback about how we are doing, this definitely affects how we are promoting this product and the way it's arranged and the composition of our portfolio as a whole. So we are here. We are at the promotion and launch phase now. So how was this process going on? Firstly, when we were developing the agenda, and I'm now addressing people at the university who want to make a program. So we want to do this. We want to start managing a portfolio of programs. We are first asking the question, what are the market niches? What are the pains of the market? This is my working document. You can see it on the right. It's super simple and it has 13 questions. And in fact, we need to answer the question of what's the program concept and why do we even need to make this program? Does anyone need it? Will anyone come to study? Will anyone take this course? If this is a commercial program, we want people to voluntarily select it. Will anyone want to take this course? And why should they choose this program and not an alternative solution to solve their problem of professional development or retraining or changing their career path? These problems can be solved in different ways, not only through education and definitely not only through a single educational program in most cases. So you have to have a clear answer to this question, why your program? So let's say we have a good idea of the landscape in the market. We know what people want, what they're looking for, what's the market situation, including the HR market situation. And that's how we create a certain menu programs, what we are offering to the world. This also has to do with promotion. That's why I wrote promotion and agenda here. Thinking about promotion, we shape our agenda. When we are designing, we are also thinking about promotion. We are using the questions that will eventually help us with promotion. What's our unique selling proposition? Why us? Why this program, this format, etc. So as we approach promotion and launch, this usually includes a huge number of events. If you know how modern marketing is done, especially at profit companies, this is certainly not a single action, not a single type of action. This is usually quite a lengthy campaign. I only have 5 slides and I have a diagram of a marketing campaign for one of our programs in the last slide. So as we are involved in this long promotion process, we are actually starting to talk to our audience. We are doing some events for them. We are calling the audience to participate in our workshops or seminars. We make them acquainted with our experts who are going to teach this course. We are helping them get accepted if there is an enrollment campaign. And doing all that, we also specify the content and format of our program, because if you are talking to the 10th person already and they don't understand what it is about and why they should be spending 10 years or 5 years instead of 1 or 2 years, then maybe something is wrong with our product. Maybe it's only about the packaging. Maybe we cannot properly explain it and the content is great. And maybe we need to correct both the content and the packaging. After the first launch, I think we are actually starting to design the second launch, which will definitely be different from the first launch, taking into account all the lessons learned and everything we understood as we were talking to users and after we started actually delivering it. And as we reach monitoring phase, we can adjust all our programs at the portfolio level. For example, we have one program devoted to data analytics and another program devoted to programming language. And after launch, we find out that this is the same audience, the same people buy both products. And when we are making two products for them, we get fewer students, fewer listeners in total than if we had a single but more understandable product. Because now we have two products, people are selecting which one to take, and some decide not to take anything at all. This happens. So we understand something about all our programs and how we, as an educational institution, what we are offering to the market. And that's my last slide. It's a case study. We have Alexander Volkov here with us. He is Vice Rector for Academic Activities at Mrs. University. And he brought together this audience. I represented mail.ru, and he represented Mrs. University. He is my witness who can confirm that, yes, indeed, that's what happened. So I included the numbers here, but I didn't write the number of months. It took 6.5 months promoting a single master's program. Eventually, 102 people enrolled and started learning, which is quite a lot for a master's program in Russia. Usually it's 15, 20 people. So we had 5 times more. And throughout 6.5 months, we were rolling out a whole promotion campaign to make sure our potential users, our potential audience, understand why they need to invest 2 years of their lives and several 100,000 rubles, which is significant money, in order to take this online master's course. We had influencers make posts, influencers for our audience, so they wrote posts, they posted online explaining why this master's program is what needs to be taken. We wrote long articles about our expertise and about what our partnership provides for this program. We held events. So there is this marketing formula that you need to have 7 contacts with the user for them to start thinking about buying something from you, including a service, including enrollment in your program. So we had strings of emails and calls and events. People would come to a webinar, join a webinar where we were talking about careers in this area. Then people would come to an event to get ready for an exam. They met the management of our university to see what people are leading it. Actually, many people don't have any idea about how a university operates, and it was important for them to understand it. Of course, we had lots of advertising, mostly on social media, of course, on Instagram, primarily. That's where our audience was. So yes, it's also a huge number of calls when people are already interested and you have to talk to them, and every person's case is specific in terms of money and career position and life path. And so all of that and many, many more things are promotion. I wanted this slide to demonstrate my statement that this is not a single type of action. This is not a single action. Promotion is a long activity that affects both the previous phases, when you are making up your portfolio, selecting your agenda, designing and developing program, and it affects the model of education, and it also affects subsequent phases. So it's central, not only geometrically, it's central because it's a key thing. So I believe that many people, judging on what I know, many people are thinking about creating a promotion a department. And it's not about your wishes and preferences. I think it's about survival. Either you are going to grow obsolete little by little together with your brand, or you will invent new tools to move ahead. That's all I have. Thank you. Thank you, Daria. Of course, it is very important to start to launch a program and promote it, but we understand that as we are doing it, the program content can change in a certain way, and we need to take into account then this can reflect on the content of the program. And now I would like to give the floor to Taras Postovoy, who is Director General of Online Education Development Fund. And I hope that he will be able to talk about many issues and be an expert on a number of case studies. But we would like Taras to focus primarily on how this content is changing and how to deal with this change. Taras, the floor is yours. And colleagues, happy to see everyone. I worked at a university for 5 years, used to work for 5 years there. So I will try to be addressing the college audience as well. I will continue and expand on what Daria was saying. I'm going to focus on a very specific aspect of launching a product, and that's how to design an experiment and how to understand whether to change your product. I wasn't sure what epigraph to use, and I decided to use this epigraph. Do not be afraid of an experiment. Of course, there is a whole discipline on experiment design, and universities and companies have this problem. When your team is creating a product for a long time, you are falling in love with this product, and we don't really want to learn things that do not match our views of the product. So if you are not having any measurable metrics like sales, you can always say, well, I am great and you don't understand anything. But if you start measuring, you can learn something you dislike. And that's why it's scary, and you need courage to start experimenting like that. So if we're talking about experiments, it means we are testing some hypothesis. And we can test a hypothesis on the content, on the target audience, and on the value proposition of our program. Of course, all this is happening now. It's clear that if your course is good, people are buying it, people are saying it's good, people are taking it, and everyone is satisfied with the results. If a course is bad, people are not buying it, they're not taking it, and not everyone is happy with the results of your training. So the question is, who is making a decision on whether the course is good or bad, and based on what data? There was an online revolution when this book by Jeff Smart was published. The book is called Who. It's about the voodoo recruiting. Voodoo recruiting is when you have this gut feeling that you like someone and you are going to hire them. And this book is about trying to hire in different manners. For example, if you want to hire top professionals that your business is independent on, then your failure can cause you a business. So this voodoo recruiting is making decisions based on your gut feeling, not based on metrics. And I believe that we have these voodoo launch in many educational programs. So we just have a look and we think, well, yeah, it should be fine. But how can we discontinue these voodoo launches and when universities are saying we are experts, we have experts on staff, and we know the way it should be done. So how can we stop doing that? I have a specific case study on how this can be done using the standard framework. So what we were doing, we have a specialization on Coursera. We have, it's called Docker. We had an industrial partner, and the industrial partner definitely has expertise, and we trust them. So they said, we live in America, we have lots of customers, we have lots of sales, which means we are great. But before we launched this course on Coursera, and it's going live today, by the way, we did several pilot launches for certain audiences. So what did we do for this so-called launch that happened before regular operation? So we created a selection, a sample of trainees, of learners, about 100 people through marketing and networking. We prepared a problem interview, and we drafted some hypotheses to be tested. We conducted this problem interview, and we got the data, we processed it, and changed our educational program. Whereas this product problem interview included some basic things about the problem, the damage, the budget, the deadline, and so on. The questions we honestly try to find answers to. And on the other hand, during the interview, we found out that we had to ask other things about this specific course. So during this problem interview, the interview itself changed in the process. So just like for scientific experiments, in this case, the key tools here is the data, the results of specific interviews with specific problems users were talking about. So here, as everywhere, you have to collect these facts in a format that can subsequently be interpreted and used and processed. This is an actual example of how we were collecting hard facts. And subsequently, in this process, we came up with the hypothesis about what problems would be solved and why people would need that. We have this specific number of hypotheses, and then when we analyze data, we said, for this specific person, our hypothesis about why the program was needed was confirmed. For this person, our hypothesis was not confirmed. And with 100 people, we can see which of our hypotheses, ideas, or hallucinations were confirmed and which were not. So during program implementation, when the program was actually ready and we were just fine-tuning it, we replaced one chapter with another because we realized that expert's view, who is an expert in this industry, his view was not aligned with the view of the audience that we could reach via Coursera. So before the big launch, we were able to replace one part of the program with another. We got positive user feedback on that, and then we were more confident about our big launch. So that's an actual cycle with real tools that can help us answer this question. And by the end, I just wanted people who watch us to think about these 4 questions. When you are launching products, are you really conducting experiments on their launch honestly? Are you articulating hypotheses pre-launch, or are you trying to do it post factum? Are you asking people to show you hard facts? Are you basing your decisions not on retelling, but on actual answers and facts of real people that were not misinterpreted? And then how do you justify your conclusions? That's all I have. Thank you. Thank you very much, Taras. Once again, I think that together with all participants who joined our roundtable today, we realize that creating this club of fellow thinkers is not just words. This is indeed a very serious, significant task, because all phases, starting from design, and we are now talking about promotion and launch, all phases are very much interconnected into an ecosystem. So it is, of course, important to design an educational program. It's very important to apply proper tools, fact-based tools, and as Daria has said today, we all understand very well that the procedure of promoting and launching a program is not actions we can do in a day. It's a clearly planned program that will not only involve audience, but also, as Taras has said, giving us this specific example, we can adjust the content of our educational program during its launch. It's no less important to be able to look at processes and maybe the terms we are using at some point, and maybe achieve clear terminology. And now I wanted to make a step back towards designing and producing an educational program and find out how correct it is to talk about a digital educational program, and actually what educational programs in the online space we can talk about. And now it's my pleasure to give the floor to our guest and participant, Ms. Galina Mozhaeva, who is Director of Online Education Institute at Finance University. Galina, the floor is yours. We are looking forward to your sharing your view with us regarding the terminology we need to be using in this case. Good morning. Good morning, colleagues. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to this event. It's always very interesting, on the one hand, to see the colleagues I know well. I'm happy to greet Daria and Taras here, and on the other hand, it's great to hear new views on the subject that's not only our activity but also our life. Please share it in full screen mode. Yes, I'll do that. So when I've seen this subject, designing and producing a digital educational program, I was slightly baffled. What is a digital educational program and how can it be digital? And what does production mean in this case? Of course, these terms follow the product logic, and of course, they dissonate with the college environment and our view on the life cycle of an educational program. Speaking about terminology, I'm not sure what a digital educational program is. A digitized program with digitized processes and key activities of an educational process, probably yes, but then that's not exactly what my colleagues were talking about. If we're talking about online programs, well, we can say that we have online bachelor's and master's programs, and this means that we implement key educational programs of bachelor's or master's, but using online technologies based on internet resources. Speaking about the Russian regulatory framework, we have neither in there. We have the key educational program using remote education techniques. Specifically, the scheme educational program with full or partial remote education. So in the Russian legal framework, when we are talking about programs implemented via online courses that are called online masters and online bachelors, we are talking about core educational programs with fully remote education, according to this terminology, even though we can call these programs digital or online. So which programs are now using remote education technologies? There is a lot of confusion here, and traditionally, many experts, particularly those who come from the business, from business education and tech professionals, they often think that a remote is the same as off-campus education. Our contemporary legislation actually allows all three types of education, face-to-face, on campus, and remote. So online or distant or remote education is just a technology, and the format can be any of the three. So what's the difference? So and actually, all three types of education can be implemented in any mode. It all depends on the contact time, meaning events that are held, for example, online, like webinars. At our university, we have, for example, webinars for extramural students that are taking it in a fully remote mode. And the mixed attendance mode requires more contact time. So in our case, it's not only Saturdays, but also weekdays. And face-to-face requires even more contact time. So this is best implemented in online masters. I don't think that online bachelor program can be implemented this way. And I also wanted to focus on this thing because you can often hear that that the pandemic has shown that remote education cannot be high quality. The pandemic has shown that we don't want to be studying remotely. But here, colleagues, you really need to differentiate what happened during the lockdown and which continues at many colleges today when we are switched to so-called remote education, and what was done by serious teams that initially designed their programs to be remote, because the pandemic showed us what emergency remote education is about. It was emergency. We just took the methods of traditional face-to-face education and we tried doing it online. Lectures and seminars turned into webinars, but the methods of delivering classes were exactly the same, even though these are completely different technological environment. And there is a proper online or remote education with carefully designed educational activity that also involves developing programs initially taking into account the specific features of a remote delivery and synchronized or asynchronized communications. And of course, every program passes these 5 phases, and promotion and launch has already been covered today. I want to go back to the first 2 phases, design and production. And I want to say that design is one of the most important ways, most important steps of our activity when we are launching online programs. Design has to be result-based and outcome-based. For example, AD model of educational design. And in this model, you take the outcome you want and you base the whole educational activity on that. You select the right technologies, you select the right platform, and so on. Our programs are all based on LMS modules, webinars, and all other contact activities held in MS Teams. And this is great to break people down into groups and macro and micro groups. And this is just wonderful. Can't you see my presentation? Only the cover slide, the first slide. Oh, really? And I was showing you so much in my slides, oh dear. And I refuse to be helped. Can you see it now? You are changing the slides now. Well, maybe that's because I couldn't share it full screen. Okay, so you can see me change slides. Okay, so I was talking about terminology, and these are just question marks here. I think I was able to convey this idea. So we are using LMS modules and MS Teams. We are also actively using online courses on our own platform of the Finance University. We have this open online academy. We are actively using Coursera platform. So we have Coursera for campus subscription. So as a bonus, our students get half-year licenses for Coursera. We also use courses on other platforms if necessary, but we prefer to use our own. Moreover, we don't believe that online courses are the silver bullet of online education. And these e-learning courses, modules in higher professional education and bachelor's and master's, these are quite suitable for high quality training education, unlike additional professional education. It's much more important for us to have interactive training materials that we develop at the design stage, and then we improve them. So we have simulations, we have built-in interactive elements and modules that, and we have a big selection of these tools. So for each program, we have created a virtual training office on our virtual campus, and we have supervisors for groups of students, and this supervisor or custodian watches over the whole process, makes sure the students are provided with guidelines, methodology, takes care of the methodology, and checks the results of completing each module. But most importantly, we believe that an open educational environment needs to be created. In this slide, you can see how we are achieving student-centric education by using contemporary educational technologies, project activity, collective and problem-based training, expert sessions and interviews. For example, I invited Viola Anatolievna as an expert. This is great for online students because this is when we are compensating, when students who need communication get this broader view shared by experts. And the most diverse digital services and tools that can be integrated into LMS. We allow teachers to use different cloud-based tools that expand the capabilities of educational activities. Speaking about an open educational environment, this is actually a compensation of the student brotherhood, of the student world that none of us can forget from our youth. So if our bachelor students are studying online for 4 or 5 years, we must create an environment for them, not only to study, but also to communicate, to live in, to do research. So we are creating open online academies. We are offering to them various resources from electronic library services, e-library, for education. And we also have mandatory online events, starting from a traditional student conference to hackathons, when students are looking for methods and techniques of remote education. We have neural games and simulation games online. We also have interactive student maps, and we are telling all the world about our remote students who have something to be proud of, who are interesting, vivid persons living all over the world. And this definitely develops the student community and shapes this open educational environment that includes not only educational activity. I think it's very important. And it's also important to develop these contemporary educational resources like professional platforms that help our students try their worth in different positions at different companies. The skills for which we are providing on our platforms. We created this wonderful resource, this simulation, together with Labios firm, and we are using it in our educational process. Of course, we need analytics as well. Even at the program design phase, we have to include it. There should be research done around the program. Before launching new programs, we make sure to monitor what's happening in the world today in online education. We look at interesting insights and case studies from foreign universities, and if we find interesting ideas, we are looking for opportunities for their subsequent implementation. Speaking about directions of online education development. These include cooperations with partners on online platforms, developing more complicated products, VR products, simulations, resources based on AI, and of course, classical online courses, video lectures, podcasts, and so on. I've already mentioned technologies, and they must be developed. We need to support not only students, but also teachers. It's essential. We need to provide continuous support and assistance, starting from the design phase. We are teaching design, then we teach them to develop different resources. We are teaching them technologies of teaching and other technologies and so on. And of course, there has to be research on online education that are impossible, without which it is impossible today to develop high quality programs. In our case, it's learning analytics, involvement, motivation, quality assessment, and learning support. And I'd like to use this opportunity, as I understand there are lots of teachers present at this conference. I'd like to invite all of you next year to our first face-to-face masters on pedagogics. And this program on digital pedagogics techniques seems to be fashionable. We are talking about teaching digital leaders, but not about transforming education. We are teaching digital leaders in education. We want to teach college professors and teachers who will learn the specific features of organizing their activity in case of remote education and learning, and they will become coaches, and they will be able to share their skills with their colleagues at their colleges. So welcome, learn new things, learn online. Colleagues, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you very much, Galina. Actually, my colleagues and I, when we heard your invitation to face-to-face online masters, we all were very interested, because this combination is mind-blowing, face-to-face and online masters. So we wish you a lot of success with that. I think it's very harmonious when you presented information and your view of designing and launching an online program. And from this high level, we went on to specific formats and examples that exist nowadays. Of course, when we are creating a program, we take into account the resources we have, the opportunities and capabilities we have, and definitely the target audience we are aiming at. But most importantly, in each specific case, depending on all these drivers and criteria, we come up with something of our own. And again, I'd like to use my right as the moderator to say that the Ural Federal University this year joined this process and launched the first online masters on smart cities management. That's the first for our graduate school of economics and management. We are interested in this topic and we want to become experts in that, because launching a master's online is a huge task, but how can we continue working with this efficiently in terms of training high quality staff that we've mentioned today? This is indeed extremely important. And now we would like to move on to discussing the specific formats and models of implementing an educational program online that exist nowadays. It is my pleasure now to give the floor to our colleague, Mikhail Sverdlov, Director for Online University Development at SkyPro. Mikhail has a great experience of working at different organizations and dealing with digital products. And actually, when we were only thinking about having this discussion and we were discussing the format of a roundtable, we decided that Mikhail could be included, just like many of other today's speakers. Mikhail could cover many subjects, but we wanted him to tell us how we can deal with this value of requests from the online audience and the value of a demand on the side of the employer, which is very important for online education. Mikhail, the floor is yours. Hi, colleagues. I hope you can hear me well. I suggest beginning. I'll talk about the value for the student and the return on investment of an educational product. So what we are doing is an educational product, and the students of our customers. I know that many people don't like to think of it this way, but I'll try to talk about the value of my thoughts, not about the form factor. Indeed, as Nina said, I have a lot of experience over the past 15 years. I was developing products in numerous different areas, the services that would be demanded by the market. And over the past 3 years, I was focused on educational technologies at Skyeng. This year, we launched the return on investment education university. I'll try to share some case studies on that, but I wanted to start with my favorite quote, that most startups or products in our case died not because it was a bad product, but because because no one needed this product. We actually need to understand whether we are making solutions that help with some of our audience's pains. And I wanted to show you this slide. There are logos of well-known Russian and CIS companies that are leaders in their areas, in their fields. So look at this Skillbox. Last year, its return was 4 billion rubles. 4 billion rubles, as Daria said, in an open market with no government subsidies or students paid for by the government. So conscious, rational people paid them this money who saw value in what they were buying. So if we look at budgets of biggest Russian companies, even at the top 10 from the Forbes ranking, you can find some companies there with the same annual turnovers, which means that companies whose logos you see know very well the problems of their target audience, and they are offering solutions that will really help people, and they get these financial returns. You can see different rankings, including turnover, and this more classical educational company is called Center Specialist. Last year, it also made about 2 billion rubles. And you can make a conclusion how these products, educational products you are offering in higher education institution or additional professional education, you can make a conclusion on whether your products are competitive. This is the turnover of a big Russian company whose turnover was 46 billion rubles via the schools represented there. And you can see that this professional element demonstrated this huge growth and accounted for almost 4.5 million at this platform alone. Of course, we are not talking about esoterics. This is also a subject that some audience is interested in. And I wanted to say that creating an educational product should be based on students' goals, expectations, and better still, you should track this throughout the student journey map. When the student is moving through the service we are providing to them, what feelings does our audience have? We did the survey a year ago among adult Russian audience under 38 years of age, and when we were asking them about the relevant sources of training for adults, 61% of respondents said YouTube, and the same is true for Americans. 7 out of 10 Americans say they solve their learning and developing and hobby problems via YouTube. 86% of American YouTube viewers say they're watching it to learn new things. So what's our task? You know, all the information, all the data is available online already. And I think that our task is creating content and educational experience that viewers cannot find online on the internet. They have a certain task, the learners have a certain objective, they want to do something, and it's very important to give them an opportunity of fulfilling their tasks via our products. You should also understand the market composition. There are some interesting developments in the market. More than 70% of Russian citizens, their salary is below 25,000 rubles per month, which means that Russian citizens don't have savings, and it impacts their readiness to pay for our educational products. So maybe you can offer them loans or payment in installments, or you may only get paid after they find a job. This impacts the demand. You can create a wonderful course, a wonderful master's program, but if it costs 250,000 rubles, you won't find your clients in this market. You should also understand what happens with the graduates. Interestingly, 60% of college graduates find a job in their profession. This is good news, but the bad news is 40% of college graduates never find a job in their profession and never even pursue their profession, which is a problem because they invest 4 years of their lives, but they are not using the knowledge and skills they acquired at college. And this percentage is even higher for lower level vocational schools. 43% of Russian parents said their children wanted to go to higher education institutions. Only 43%, which is much less than before. It's also about competition. As you can remember from the previous slide, our population is growing. Our population is has little money. So the faster a child enters the labor market and stops using parents' money, the easier it is for the family. When we are looking at requests of people who come to tech companies based on Skill Factory data, they want to change their profession. I don't know whether educational institutions, universities understand the objectives of their first year students, but I'm pretty sure that most people come to universities to get a sought after job. No one, well, I mean, some people want to avoid the army conscription, others just go because it's a convention, a custom, but most people come to get a new profession. This is also interesting statistics in terms of expectations. That's what we are working with. And it's very indicative. If you look at graduates and non-graduates, you can see that graduates can get higher higher salaries, but those who didn't yet graduate, these undergraduates believe that they will get very high salaries, but they're probably going to get disappointed. And what are the factors? What are the drivers of selecting your university? Is it because your university is on the central street and is well known in the city, or is it because your graduates are competitive in the labor market? Let's look at the SkyPro case study. We are also going to talk about return on investment later today, and we only launched 6 professions. And we're not going to expand this portfolio a lot because we decided to focus on the professions that can really help our students, our clients, solve their problems. And their problem is improving their life quality. That's their objective. And we offer them a conscious approach to education. We have more than 2,000 students now. We are using ISA model. So the student doesn't pay anything upfront. The student pays us after they find employment if they get a salary of more than 55,000 rubles. So that's a low risk investment in yourself. And the data and approaches I'm going to share now give our graduates an opportunity to find a job in 20 days. And the average salary is 55,000 rubles. So data analysts have higher salaries. And that's 65,000, maybe even 150,000 rubles. And testers' salaries are lower. So what are the tasks, the job to be done, what the person wants to do? Our client comes to us firstly when they are unhappy with their profession and they want to change it. The client has a conscious demand. And the second part of our audience doesn't know whether they want to change their profession, but they don't get enough money. That's the percentage of our population, the share of our population that gets very small salaries and they want to earn more money. So people see the ads or the parents or friends tell them about us. They come to us or to any other educational institution, they study and they get a diploma, they graduate. But that's only the beginning. When a person takes an educational product, the person is not getting a new job or a diploma. The person comes for an image of the future, for expectations that they have. A person wants to be sought after expert, make money, have an opportunity of traveling abroad or to the south of Russia. So the person wants to make money. And when we are creating targeted educational programs, we need to realize what our metrics are going to be. We want to demonstrate that we are doing the right thing, how well we are doing what we are doing. So if your goal is making sure your graduates are employed, your metrics could be how soon they get job offers and what are the amounts on the job offers and so on. That's the objective market response to our activity. And I like this quote by Svetlana Ilyenkova, who says that quality of education is the demand for the acquired knowledge under specific conditions. And I also suggest that you reflect on that, how you are designing your course, what metrics you are using, what results are achieved by your graduates. And that's what you want to work for and promote Russian education. Another important metric, we believe, is referral, how your educational product or your program in the market, whether it's graduates recommended, so the share of new students who were referred by these courses graduates. Other metrics is successful on the job placement, because we want the person not only to get a job, but also to keep this job. And the foundation of our, we want our graduates to use the knowledge we gave them, how their salary is growing in 6, 12, 24 months, and the happiness level of our graduates. Because maybe we just needed to say goodbye to some of our students at the very beginning. So employers, we get feedback from employers, as Taras was talking about the case study of a program that they changed during the design. Well, we are also reviewing our programs every quarter. We get lots of feedback, specifically by the metrics I've just mentioned, and we can see whether our program matches the goals we defined for it, whether our students and graduates achieve their goals and can be proud of it. And we make adjustments to improve results even further. And two more high-level slides before I finish. The three pillars of creating a sought-after product, whether our course, we are looking at a course first, whether our course matches students' expectations. Are we actually delivering what we have sold? How many students drop out? What are the feedback metrics from review from service, and how many students even complete the course? Because even if only 70% of students complete the course, even fewer of them will find employment. Number two is after. What happens after graduation from our bachelor's or master's or professional education? How soon graduates get offers, how the salaries are growing, and so on. And these metrics are becoming KPIs for universities, and I think this can help the industry a lot. And thirdly, on the market side, whether our graduates are sought after in the market, whether employers want to hire them, and what is the employer's feedback. How can this be achieved? Three simple things. One, understanding the market. Two, understanding the client's pain, and the client is both your student and the employer, the future employer of your graduates. And number three is solution, the product we are making. And you can ask, well, I've been talking about return on investment at the beginning. Return on investment is actually the foundation, and it's very important for us. People from various professions come to us and they want to get IT education. We are training analysts, data analysts, developers, testers, and market researchers. It's very important for us how soon people can switch. So how soon can people switch to different jobs? And ROI, how? So if people buy a course for 50,000 or 100,000 rubles, how quickly their revenue will grow to pay back? To do that, we analyze the labor market, we analyze job postings, vacancies on job portals by qualitative and quantitative parameters, how soon vacancies are closed. We understand the requirements of hiring managers. We hold dozens of interviews to understand what is required from new hires, to the so-called switchers. Mikhail, I'm sorry, one moment more. Okay, accepted. And then we make up our program. We use industry expertise. People who are doing that are practitioners who are actually doing this work day after day. And some people are not ready to spend a lot of time, but these market experts validate our programs. And this is only the beginning. Then we launch test streams. We collect user feedback, student feedback. We edit our program, and only then launch it for commercial use. And the program is updated every 3 months, as I said. And then we really need to see how our graduates are finding their place in the world and in career. We help them with career consults, do training interviews, and reviewed post-mortem on the past job interviews. So 20 days is the maximum time it takes them to find a job, and the average salaries are 55,000 rubles. Finally, I wanted to quote Jack Welch: "If you cannot measure it, you cannot control it or manage it." So if we don't have measurable metrics in the process of creating educational programs and promoting them, we will just we will not be in control, and we will not be proud of results. Thank you very much. I will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much, Mikhail. That's a curious case study. We can indeed see that there are just as many formats and models as there are universities and educational platforms. Since we are already behind schedule, but we still have three very important speakers who are going to present, to share their views. So I will offer to Zhanna Belaeva, who is has PhD in economics. She is academic director of management, who is academic director at Graduate School of Economics and Management of the Ural Federal University, and she will be talking about the case study of this program, Global Economy, and she will share the tools and methods they were using for this program implementation. Thank you very much. Hello, dear colleagues. Since we have overrun our schedule, I will only dwell on the most interesting things. The Global Economy and International Business Program, and I'm one of the managers of this program. It has already been mentioned at the very beginning of our roundtable by Alexei Yakovlev and Iskander Beriev. And it is this program that became the pilot of implementing digital competences. Share it in full screen mode, please. I'll tell you which slides to skip. Skip that. So what program are we talking about? We didn't have a task to turn a non-digital into a very digital program. And this resonates with what other speakers were saying. What is a digital program? What are digital skills? Global Economy and International Business Program is a dual program, and it has EPMD certification, which means that we've been continuously improving it. This is a dual degree program, and we were aiming at implementing digital competences and finding out what exactly our enrolling students want, why they're taking this program, and who they want to be, who they want to work as. We are cooperating closely with employers, and most importantly, I think, we are also interacting with graduates, with alumni, because they already know what the market needs. Of course, as we converted into digital, we were all forced to digitize. Thankfully, we were ready. We had previously implemented an online program. We had some interactive classes. We already had some simulations to involve Russian and foreign students. And when we started to deal with the list of programs to be updated within this program, HR for Digital Economy, we addressed employers again, and we surveyed the biggest employers to find out what they want from our graduates in economics in the next 5 or 7 years. Not to go into technical detail, it turned out that employers themselves view economists very differently from what we were thinking at the university. We decided to update some things, and we decided to understand what digital competence was, and whether there was a difference between between digital knowledge and digital competences. This is the customer journey and user experience map that we are using to balance our students' expectations and their vision of what their profession is about, who they want to work as, and what their employers require. This slide has some very important statements by employers. They say they no longer need graduates with so-called hard skills or soft skills. They need T-shapers or very adaptable people. We are not training people who are going to be programmers or software developers, but they must know the English language, of course, and they must be able to use software to solve their problems, to do their jobs. Not viewing it as updating individual disciplines. We were looking at it as a pool of competences. A student in a bachelor's program received specific knowledge, skills, and tools. A student understands why and how they are going to need that. This is all happening in cooperation with corporations, and we have this new model: Russian teacher, foreign teacher, and corporate teacher. This balances our graduates' skills while they're still students. So they graduate with a portfolio of projects and with a list of offers from corporate players. Graduates are becoming T-shapers, and there are 3 types of digital competence: informational and analytical literacy, new communication, internet technologies, and creating digital content. This is a pretty busy slide that lists software used by students and expected by employers in order to get valuable graduates, so that the employer doesn't tell the new hire, forget everything you learned at college, we start from scratch. And that's why we cooperate with international digital platforms. For example, when we are building the guided project by Coursera in our educational process. This way, students get digital skills and know how to use end-to-end technologies in their training. We will skip that, not dwell on that. I wanted to emphasize that, of course, we primarily look at professional standards so that students understand who they want to be, but it doesn't mean that our graduates have a very narrow career path. We are focusing on giving our students digital, professional, and software competences or skills. In order to achieve this goal by 2025, we looked at the ways of including expanded skills in our program and giving students the skills that they would later use in their professional work, like in banks, in audit, consulting, and foreign trade activities. So data analytics is the key tool here. Of course, over 4 years of bachelor's studies, students mostly take professional and general professional courses, but we reshaped them for digital economy. We want our students to have a broad, extensive knowledge and at the same time understand which vector of digital analytics they have to look towards. And with additional digital skills, you can use this knowledge to work in 4 professional standards. We begin with programming and working with economic data. Then students learn about the role that Russia plays in the digital ecosystem nowadays. We also use hackathons and built-in simulators, including virtual or online assistants for students' future career paths. Year 4 graduates frequently work in this T-shaped track at the junction between the economics, the finance, and the IT. We tried to visualize the end-to-end technologies covered by this program, and that's not all, because in this case, of course, economists are using, not creating end-to-end technologies. We'll skip that. And of course, we were getting feedback and approvals from big businesses. We were discussing and arguing with them. We wanted to prove that we are indeed giving these skills to our graduates, and this project-based activity showed the potential weaknesses of the projects we are doing right now. This semester will, I think, give them a good starting point to understand who they are going to work as. And corporations will also view our graduates. They will see how the evolution of this program helped them develop their digital and economic skills. We already see that some adjustments are required based on the results, because when we are holding a hackathon, we get some positive feedback, and our partners are also suggesting some changes in the process and in the tasks, and they say which skills could be fine-tuned, which is great, because this kind of feedback helps us improve. We are going to test our digital products with Coursera in the nearest future, and we will issue guidelines for educational institutions about which modules could be implemented based on our experience, which I hope will be useful. Another a couple more beautiful photos of our students who not only work in digitization, but also involved in sustainable development, which is, of course, a prerequisite for correct digitization. So these are product outcomes, fragments of labor functions in the world of digital products. So this can be, for example, a business analyst, a foreign trade specialist, a specialist on investment projects, and an audit specialist. That's all I have. Thank you for your attention, and I think I will answer your questions by email. I cannot hear you. Can you hear us now? Yes. Great, thank you. What would we do without our assistants? No one would hear us. Thank you so much. And now, colleagues, we have reached the final and a very important phase. We've already done a lot. So this is the last, but not the least phase, which is analyzing the digital footprint and monitoring tools in the process of digital educational program implementation. And now it's my pleasure to give the floor to Viola Larionova. She's a PhD in engineering and Deputy Vice Rector for Educational Techniques at the Ural Federal University. Viola, the floor is yours. Please tell us how we can monitor our digital footprint. Hello, colleagues. I'm happy to be at this round table where we looked at online masters and online educational program we looked at it from all sides. So imagine that we have created a unique content, we promoted the program in the market, we launched it, and we enrolled several dozens or hundreds of students. And we have, and now we need to support this program while our students are either studying in a hybrid format or completely online, 90% of the time, including webinars, if this is a remote master's degree. So how can we communicate with them, support them? How can we find out about their problems as soon as possible? And what tools can we give to educators and tutors for them to ensure the quality of educational activity and monitor the satisfaction, our students' satisfaction with the educational program? So I will briefly review our idea that took the form of a tool that's called a system of recommending services and training support services for all process participants. This system is called Digital Tutor. We created these tools based on learning analytics, tools for all learning process participants. We started with analyzing their needs by dividing the learning process into stages, where we have this manager of an educational program who selects modules and courses to be included in the educational program and monitors quality. Then teacher, professor teaches students and monitors their involvement. The tutor supports students and helps them select their individual learning path, and the student should learn from the program and enjoy the process and shape their skills. And at this path, every participant faces their own challenges, which we presented in this table. In the first column, you can see the outlines of problems, and we tried to solve these problems with learning analytics and tools by creating a service for each of the process participants. I will not dwell on this slide. This diagram is a great illustration of what we were trying to achieve. Our student who comes to a college, this is the starting point. It doesn't mean the student had zero skills before, but this is a starting point for growing their skills as they get higher education. We created this service to visualize the students' skills and monitor the trend of shaping their profile throughout the learning process. The student is learning face-to-face or remotely. In any case, a lot of education is happening on online platforms using online tools. We collect this digital footprint, analyze it, and share the analysis, this analysis with all process participants in a convenient form, as we visualize the indicators that this student affects. For example, the educational program manager impacts the quality of the program, tutor impacts the support quality, and teacher impacts the teaching process quality. We collect data from all college systems, administrative databases, LMS systems, data from the National Platform of Open Education, and also from Coursera. Now, additional data can be collected from different surveys of students' satisfaction and data on authors of the course to assess the correlation between satisfaction with the course and skills of its creators. And one more thing I wanted to share, this data, we collect all data, but for our analytics to be reliable and for its outcomes to be correct, and relevant data needs to be cleared. It needs to be filtered, cleared, and we need to deal with the data we trust. So first of all, we processed this data and we looked at students' grades based on our control and measurement tools. If they do not match these parameters, we will not be able to measure the academic performance. That is the outcomes of taking our educational courses. So firstly, we created a tool for expert assessment of control and measurement instruments. The cleared data from the instruments that yield correct results were then used to create a tool for educational programs managers to assess the course quality based on learning analytics. Here we have this funnel of course attendees and academic performance, median values, current academic performance, index of virtual attendance, and index of solving tasks and problems. The program manager can look at previous course launches, compare different courses, and select the course that is good for his or her target audience. This service for the teacher monitors the students' activity and involvement in the educational process. We are measuring how evenly students are involved. We can measure the groups and individual activity within the course. So by using these indices of activity and uniformity, this service visualizing the student's skill profile when we show the students how their skills are growing, and if the student sees that their skills are not growing well enough, the tutor can suggest additional courses or disciplines for the student to enter the labor market with sought after skills. The last thing I wanted to say is combining efforts of doing experimental studies based on data and learning analytics. Combining the efforts of universities makes it possible for us to create a big database and experiment and get statistically relevant information on how a student is taking courses, how a student is using mixed technology, look at students' satisfaction, and come up with recommendations that could be used in all higher educational institutions to provide high quality education. Thank you. Thank you very much, Viola. Dear colleagues, we journeyed through the process of creating a digital educational program today, from the time of designing and identifying its agenda to using specific tools and the ways of applying these tools to update our digital educational program. I would like to thank all colleagues who were able to share their experience and insights today, their ideas, who could share their views. I would like to thank our audience. And in conclusion, I would like to end our roundtable with the phrase that I came up with today after this highlight of the fellow thinkers started to emerge today. There is a common phrase that fellow thinker is the person who is ready to change their views together with you. And this is certainly very important. We are all at the beginning of a very important journey. And even though our documents say the year 2024, we understand that indeed it's endless. It's an endless journey. the digital reality will certainly be developing. We will be designing and updating it all the time. And in this case, the most important thing is having fellow thinkers around you. Thank you for the fruitful discussion.